when do you think the requirement of the third factor of production, which you mentioned in the presentation, which is the nature, that will come into existence?
Yes, you start off with probably the most difficult question, I fear, because that's about looking into the future.
Yes.
And what I did, I gave an historical analysis from the agricultural economy into the industrial economy, and now we need to go in a nature economy. But my expectation is that before we enter into that stage, we first need to have the destruction of the financial capitalism.
Yes.
So we can do the preparation right now. Economists should take the responsibility and depart from the environmental perspective. So the conference over here on spiritual management is a wonderful start to introduce that new era. But before something new comes, we need the destruction of a very dominant financial capitalism, which is still strong. In Europe, for example, but also in the States, we had a crisis, we still have a crisis, a financial crisis, from 2008 on until now, 5 years later, 2014. And when growth restarts, we will not know. And it looks like it's stabilizing and we can grow any further, but I don't think so, because the infrastructure is not suited for that new future. So it might be 5 years, it might be 10 years, it might be 2 years, I really don't know.
So next question is related to our nation, India. Is quantity theory of capitalism, what you explain, it is applicable in Indian scenario right now?
The quantitative analysis?
Yes, the model you have described.
Okay. Yes, the analysis I described is suited for all kinds of economies. It could be a local economy, it could be a city, like our field, for example. It could be, which is a town, a village maybe. It could be a city, it could be a state, it could be a country. It is applicable also to the world. But the bigger you make it, the more complicated it is to realize your goals. So for the Indian situation, I would say if you start off in a village and create a financial system where the direct investments, the physical economy, is in the right relation to the monetary economy and the system of loans and equity, in that situation you could realize it also on a smaller scale. And I would say it's even better to implement it in a smaller scale because it's easier to realize.
Okay. Next question is, as a student of finance, in Indian perspective, what do you think that the Indian terrestrial capital system should feel the changes to match with the European financial system?
The question is whether they need to match with the Western system, because as I already explained, I'm quite cynical about the stage of the Western economy. So they are more or less former century economics. And I would say that it's better for Indian development to see what the mistakes were made in the United States and are made, still made, and in Europe. Okay. So look at it very critically and try to take the good of it, because we do need markets.
Yes.
We do need a financial system, but a financial system which is suited also for the near future and not the globalized system what we have right now, where the banks and the financial sector are aiming for making money instead of being a servant of the real physical economy. So if the Indian people Indian people are aware of these elements, I think there could be a wonderful future. And there are examples which are already on that line, and once again refer to our field.
Could you quote some examples that will highlight this point, sir? Few of the banks that have done such kind of activities that has enriched the Indian financial system.
I do not know too much. I do not know much. I do not know anything, I think, on the Indian banking system. I just found out yesterday in a discussion as a PhD student that in India there are both private banks and government banks,
Yes.
which is not the case in Europe and United States. There, all the banks are private institutions. So the influence of a government could be very positive, but it depends on the quality of the government.
Yes.
Yeah, if what I heard a lot also during these sessions, that if governments are quite corrupt, then that's not a good example for a bank, I would say. So if the government is democratically chosen and takes the responsibility of the real economy, this is crucial in all developments. The financial sector should service the real economic sector. And the very moment they do so, whether private or governmental, that should be progress, in my view.
That's it.
Thank you very much, sir, for your precious answer
And
Thank you.
and your replies.
It was a pleasure to be here.
yeah, as a personal note, sir, this is not an interview. So
Off the record.
yeah, off the record.
Yes.
So in European, there are certain banks, right, sir, that would like to come to India and participate in Indian.
For sure.
So as an European bank, so what do you perceive as an Indian student? What do you see from Indian students? What do you require from an Indian student of finance? What would we expect from an European
Yes.
bank? Maybe
Your expectation should not be too high of European banks, because the banks, the European banks who go to India, they are there for just one goal, and that's making money.
Yeah.
Expand their markets.
Yes.
So the United States, Europe, Australia,
Yes.
they are developed countries, so
Yes.
they are seeking new markets. And look at India, look at China, look at Brazil,
Yes.
and these are hugely fast developing economies. So they are here just for the money. So being an Indian student, beware of them. Join them
Yes.
simply to see how
they
it
work.
is.
Yes, sir. Yes.
So do not get into that. See
Okay.
how it works and then try to make the changes.
Okay, sir.
And say, this is our country, why do you give a loan to a company which is destroying
Yes, sir. Exactly.
the environment, or which is at the expense of low-paid workers, at the expense of women, etc. So that is your responsibility, I would say. So to take a look at them, do not deny them, but try to change. And if you are unable, seek for a next position, and then you do have the experience, and you know from within how the system works. I had that experience. My very first job was in a bank in the Netherlands, and it took me less than 2 years to get out of it, to make that very same lesson, because it also at that time it was like that. And now we are 30 years later, and it's still expanding. So and you have the possibilities of it.
That's a good point, sir.
Yes, you have.
Okay.